For over 200 years, the Brandenburg Gate has been viewed as a national icon of German identity. The gate played different political roles throughout German history. In the 19th century, the defeat of Napoleon signified the Brandenburg Gate as a symbol of German victory and strength. During the era of the Nazis, the gate was used as a party symbol to portray their power. After the war, it represented the rebuilding of society but then turned into a symbol of separation during the Cold War. Post-1989, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, the gate symbolised unification of the city as well as freedom from the East. This history has made the Brandenburg Gate a German monument. Historian Brian Ladd states that the Brandenburg Gate with its quadriga has long been Berlin's most famous symbol, rivaled only by the Berlin Wall. The image of the Brandenburg Gate can be seen on coins, playing cards, posters, postcards and tourist brochures. In the era of the Great Elector, Friedrich Wilhelm, Berlin, the capital city of Prussia, was rebuilt as a fortified city. Access to Berlin was only possible through several gates which were situated around the city. The Brandenburg Gate was not one of the original gates. The expansion of Berlin, which included the Berlin Customs Wall that was built in the 1730s, meant the creation of more gates. The construction of the Brandenburg Gate began in 1788 and was completed in 1791. The Brandenburg Gate was based on monumental gateways present in Greek architecture. The gate measures 65.5 metres wide and 28 metres tall. The gate consists of 12 columns, creating 5 passages. The central passage was reserved for royalty, the 2 adjacent passages were used by the aristocracy, leaving the 2 outer passages for citizens. Napoleon was the first to use the gate for a military parade in 1806, and since his defeat Berlin has followed his example and used the gate for their own military parades. When Germany united under Prussian leadership in 1871, the victorious troops returning from France were welcomed at the Brandenburg Gate. This tradition has continued, which can be seen through military parades occurring at the Brandenburg Gate during the First and Second World War. The Brandenburg Gate's identity changed in 1806 when Napoleon defeated Prussia. When the French occupied Berlin and Napoleon's troops marched through the Brandenburg Gate, Napoleon ordered the quadriga to be shipped back to Paris as a symbol of victory. The quadriga and the goddess were packed in crates and shipped to Paris to join his other confiscated art treasures. Napoleon became known as the horse thief of Berlin, and the Brandenburg Gate became a symbol of Prussian and German resistance. The quadriga stayed in storage until 1814, most likely due to Napoleon's preoccupation with the war. On top of the Brandenburg Gate is a bronze statue of the quadriga, a chariot drawn by 4 horses, driven by the goddess of peace, which was created in 1793. Friedrich Wilhelm II wanted the gate to be a symbol of Prussia's peace and prosperity after the 30 Years' War, during the reign of Frederick the Great. The Brandenburg Gate was a representation of peace. When Paris was occupied by Prussian soldiers and Napoleon was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo, the quadriga was returned to Berlin and reinstalled on top of the Brandenburg Gate. At first its official name was the Gate of Peace. When Napoleon was defeated in 1815, the gate became known as the Gate of Victory. This victory established the Brandenburg Gate as a symbol of Berlin and Prussia. When Paris was occupied by Prussian soldiers and Napoleon was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo, the quadriga was returned to Berlin and reinstalled on top of the Brandenburg Gate. At first its official name was the Gate of Peace. When Napoleon was defeated in 1815, the gate became known as the Gate of Victory. This victory established the Brandenburg Gate as a symbol of Berlin and Prussia. On top of the Brandenburg Gate is a bronze statue of the quadriga, a chariot drawn by 4 horses, driven by the goddess of peace, which was created in 1793. Friedrich Wilhelm II wanted the gate to be a symbol of Prussia's peace and prosperity after. When Paris was occupied by Prussian soldiers and Napoleon was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo, the quadriga was returned to Berlin and reinstalled on top of the Brandenburg Gate. At first its official name was the Gate of Peace. When Napoleon was defeated in 1815, the gate became known as the Gate of Victory. This victory established the Brandenburg Gate as a symbol of Berlin and Prussia. When Paris was occupied by Prussian soldiers and Napoleon was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo, the quadriga was returned to Berlin and reinstalled on top of the
Berlin today represents completely different ideologies to those it represented on the eve of the First World War. It had the potential to become a major worldwide city, but was forced to rebuild itself following the damaging effects of the war. The Brandenburg Gate represented the destruction of the war, but on the same note, it equally represented the resilience of the city too. Following World War I, the Gate became a symbol for one of the darkest periods of history, but its connection to politics continued, and the Gate represented an era which would transform Germany forever. Its use in the Nazi period was symbolic and became important for Nazi propaganda. But prior to the Nazi era and World War II, the Gate had to withstand the effects of World War I. Previous ideas surrounding the Gate, which represented Berlin's welcoming nature and how it was ultimately considered as a gateway to the city, was ended with the comings of the First World War. Snipers in both World Wars would hide out on the top of the gate in the Quadriga to shoot members of the enemy as they approached Berlin. The Brandenburg Gate then became a symbol of division that opposed unwelcome guests. Following the First and Second World War, the gate was badly damaged by shots, explosions and bombings, but its resistance was clear as it remained standing. The era of Nazi Germany allowed the gate to continue to represent ideologies, and so it became a propaganda tool for one of the darkest periods of human history. The Nazis embraced the ideologies of victory that the gate represented in the hope of sustaining morale throughout the war. In 2008, Alan Berner wrote that the Brandenburg Gate predated the rise of National Socialism, although it should be noted that the meanings attached to them have undoubtedly reflected the vicissitudes of the 20th century German history. Berner acknowledges the significance of the gate and understands the value it held in Berlin, but recognises how the period of Nazi Germany forced the gate to become a symbol of darkness. Furthermore, he acknowledges the changing ideas of Berlin and how the gate interpreted these ideas. The gate had previously represented openness as a gateway for those entering and visiting Berlin. Under National Socialism, this continued, but what had once been a positive symbol of openness became the symbol for welcoming a dark period of dictatorship. In 2008, Ladd wrote that upon the seizure of power on the 30th of January 1933, Hitler ordered thousands of torch-bearing Nazi brown shirts to march through the gate. Troops waved torchlights to showcase a new period of power as they sang through the streets of Berlin. The parade was used to show the manpower and control that Hitler had over Berlin, and the use of torches was to represent the vision and light of the Third Reich. But for historians of the present day, it represents the darkness of the Nazi regime. An iconic symbol of Berlin was as susceptible to manipulation as the people of Berlin and the rest of Germany. The seizure of power saw the gate remain of iconic nature, but Hitler's plans for the future, which centered around a new capital named Germania, threatened the influence that the gate held. For Hitler, Berlin was not the capital of the state he was trying to create, and instead Germania would be a truly German capital. Despite powerful monuments like the Brandenburg Gate, Hitler wanted to show the world the power of Germany through the construction of huge buildings. In a documentary in 2005, Kevin Musso noted that Hitler wanted to erect buildings more splendid, more beautiful than any that have ever been built before. For Hitler then, the gate's power and history was not enough. Instead, he wanted more, which furthered his manipulation of the gate to represent the horrors of Nazi Germany. Whilst the Brandenburg Gate's iconic nature became threatened, Hitler did have plans to keep it in Germania. However, it would not be as important or as iconic to the eye, since it would be swamped by the plans for Germania that envisaged huge buildings that would take away attention from iconic monuments and buildings like the gate. It would be situated next to the centre of Nazism, the Great Hall, but the size of the plans for this building would leave the Brandenburg Gate nearly invisible. Its central location, however, still showed the importance of its political connection, and at every opportunity Hitler wanted to showcase his control over politics and society to the world, and the gate guaranteed this as it was a constant reminder of his seizure of power following the Torch Parade in 1933. The city of Germania represented Hitler's desires for not only political but complete control by a show of strength. The use of the gate in this city was significant, and even though its traditional ideals were threatened, its significance to politics remained, despite its negative manipulation. The city of Germania was never born, but the necessity to keep the gate, even at a lower significance, shows the importance of the political and social ideals it represented during one of the darkest periods of history.
In the years following the Second World War, the symbolism of the Brandenburg Gate shifted drastically, particularly throughout the period of the Cold War. It originally served as a symbol of peace and unity, which wouldn't be seen again until later in the century. The combined effort of both the East and West Berliners to restore the Brandenburg Gate, which was damaged by the atrocities of war, brought with it a sense of community, a sense of a nation working as one. It was repaired during the years 1956 through till 1958 by the people of East Berlin, whilst West Berlin funded the reconstruction of the Quadriga, which was destroyed during the war. The Quadriga was cast using its original model. However, the Iron Cross and Eagle, which were there to symbolise Prussia, were removed by the communist regime. Until the wall was built, the gate was fully operational, allowing vehicles and pedestrians to freely travel through the gate, bringing with it a further sense of unity. Although the holes were patched up, they were visible to the members of the public for many more years. Ironically, this is similar to the feeling that the Brandenburg Gate came to symbolise. Once the Berlin Wall went up in 1961, the gate that was once a symbol of unity and strength through adversity was now closed to the public. The area in which it stood was now nothing more than a deserted wasteland, far different to how it is now. The gate was now located in East Germany and became inaccessible to West Berlin, West Germany, and the whole of the Western world. The wall was now unable to be passed through as it stood in the restricted area. This symbolism of separation and division is something that would stand for years to come. On the 12th of June 1987, the Brandenburg Gate played host to one of the most influential speeches of the Cold War. The then President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, made an arousing speech in front of the Brandenburg Gate.
Today I say, as long as this gate is closed, as long as this scar of a wall is permitted to stand, it is not the German question alone that remains open, but the question of freedom for all mankind. If you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
The most notable quote that is taken from this rousing speech is as follows: "As long as the gate is closed, it is not the German question alone that remains open, but the question of the freedom of all mankind." The likening of the gate to the partition of Germany and the blockade of freedom serves to show how much the gate has changed in the eyes of the people. This is not just a symbol felt by the German public, but rather the world. The speech was attended by some 20,000 people gathered by the gate. The delivery of his speech was made in West Berlin. However, due to the location, it was within an audible reach of East Berliners. This allowed it to reach an even larger audience that was arguably far more important than the West Berliners it was intended for. As one of Berlin's and perhaps Germany's most important monuments at this time, the landmark held the constantly shifting feeling of the nation. For example, whilst at the end of the war, when the gate was being repaired, it promoted the feeling of peace and a rebuilding of communities. This quickly shifted with the drawing of the Iron Curtain. The gate highlighted the separation that was all too present of a feeling in the Cold War years. Personified by the attitude of the times, the Cold War years presented the Brandenburg Gate overall as a symbol of the people, a reflection of the community, immortalised in a landmark.
Upon the fall of the Berlin Wall on the 9th of November, after a series of revolutions throughout 1989, the Brandenburg Gate became a new symbol for Germany, a symbol of both peace and unity, and the meeting point for many protests, annual holidays, and festivals. Today, the gate provides Berliners and visitors to the city a day out, various activities, and also a few photo opportunities too. The changes in ideologies surrounding the gate show just how much change Berlin as a city has altered. The gate is now a popular tourist destination, with millions of people visiting the site each year. Because of this, it is now the location for many political protests, such as the one against American President Donald Trump's policies on immigration. As well as this, it was also the site of anti-Islam protests in 2016, creating unrest around the area and police involvement. In recent years, the Brandenburg Gate is often illuminated with countries' flags projected onto the architecture. Recently, this has been done for the various terror attacks, such as the ones in the Orlando nightclub, the terror attack on Jerusalem, and to commemorate the New Year's Eve Istanbul nightclub shooting.
To protest the election of Donald Trump as President of the United States. Can we get a boo?
Moving on from the divisions in Berlin appears to have been relatively fast-paced, as the gate provided the backdrop for the first MTV European Music Awards in 1994, just 5 years after the fall of the wall. Written in 2005 in an article in Billboard magazine, writer Dominic Pride explained how, once the Berlin Wall came down, the gate turned from a symbol of division into German reunification seemingly overnight. Since German reunification, the gate has changed from a sign of partition to a place of celebration. Each year, the Brandenburg Gate hosts a New Year's Eve party, bringing in approximately 1 million visitors. The gate is no longer seen as an emblem of division. It brings people together every year, the exact opposite of what it was upon its construction, being reserved only to be walked through by the royal. Around the gate, there are various souvenir shops selling items and postcards depicting the famous gate. This tourist-oriented side of the historic gate has only recently come into prominence, as prior to the fall of the wall, the Brandenburg Gate was not considered a particularly popular tourist attraction. Now, however, it brings in many tourists exploring Berlin, wanting to see the famous landmark, regardless of its associations with Nazi Germany. Since opening on the 6th of August 1791, the Brandenburg Gate has transformed from Napoleonic trophy to Nazi symbol to Soviet conquest, and now it is a tourist attraction, a monument of unity and peace. The gate has seen a significant historical transition through its 226-year history, and has come to symbolise different ideals for different generations. Its versatility has meant the Brandenburg Gate has stayed in Germany and withstood numerous seminal changes through its history. Today, the Brandenburg Gate represents the unifying strength of German society and, despite its tumultuous history, it has withstood wars and politics in the city. From the many political protests that still circulate around the gate, it is clear that this monument is still an area of unrest at times, just as it was during the Napoleonic rule, the Third Reich, and in the German Democratic Republic.